Ross, are you?
I'm a SpaceX owner too. You didn't mention that.
Well, that's
Yeah, explain.
So explain away.
Well, explain away. I got involved with this wonderful deal that was presented to me 4 years ago to invest in Twitter. And boy, oh boy, did we do great with that, huh? So I had written down that stake in Twitter to about 25% of its original investment. And then somehow XAI came and bought Twitter. And then somehow SpaceX bought XAI. And now today, I've now made like over 3 times my money investing in Twitter. So, there is a thing called luck in the world, and I'm lucky.
So you've tripled your money from 4 years ago in investing in the take private of what is now X and owned by XAI, which is part of SpaceX, of course. What do you do with that part of ownership? Do you hold on to it or do you sell it when you can?
Well, I'm building a new pool, but that has nothing to do with my SpaceX. I want to continue to employ lots of people because it's fun. But no, I'm holding my SpaceX.
No, an actual pool. I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm building an actual physical pool.
Okay.
Like in the AI era, I'm taking my AI profits and doing something really worthwhile, employing people to dig holes. But that said, SpaceX is one of the most interesting companies I've ever seen. And we have such a unique viewpoint of SpaceX because we work with so many SpaceX clients and we're getting more all the time. And we've really been focusing on helping SpaceX employees because it's down the street from us here in Los Angeles is kind of one of their main hubs. And so, I've met some incredible people over the last several months doing incredible things. These are the highest caliber engineers in the world that have made our space program, because it's really the United States space program, just so amazingly unique and successful. So what we have in store for us over the next decade is really exciting.
Hey, so Ross, just want to ask you, so you own the stock, you're happy about that. Will you continue owning it? Or do you think the valuation?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not selling it. I got my 10-year-old kid sitting here because he's out of school. And when I start thinking about what his life is going to be like when he's only 20, like 10 years from now, like space is just going to be something that's like, I keep making this joke. It's like easier to go to space than New Jersey, And so, the truth is, I think it's harder to go from New York to New Jersey than it will be in space to go to space in 10 years.
And Ross, to be clear, this is you, Ross Gerber, personally, as opposed to Gerber Kawasaki.
That's correct. I personally own the shares, and my firm, in our own firm account, owns shares, because when the Twitter deal came by, Elon really didn't want to do the deal. So we didn't actually sell the deal to our clients because I was like, I can't sell this. The guy doesn't want to do it, And so they basically called us the last night and was like, do you still want to invest? Because we're actually doing this. And so I just wrote a check because it was Elon, But none of our clients have been able to participate in this. Fortunately and unfortunately, because remember, it started off pretty bad.
You didn't get an allocation or submit a bid for an allocation in the IPO or go into the open market today. I'm being mechanical, but I'm just...
No, we haven't done open market purchases of SpaceX today because our firm does not buy IPOs for very good reasons, which I'm happy to talk about.
Well, Well, can I ask you?
And secondly, we did request IPO allocations for clients of ours that are at Fidelity and Schwab because we work with both of them, and they did provide. So some of our clients did get small allocations of SpaceX stock today as well.
So the hypothesis,
but those were unsolicited.
Understood.
The clients really wanted it. Yeah.
The reason that's insightful is there are people listening to Bloomberg Business Week or watching Bloomberg Business Week that are in the same boat, right? And they're just thinking what did I do here? But the hypothesis presented to me by loads of people is they didn't sell their Tesla shares to get some liquidity to participate, in part because they just see the Tesla SpaceX merger happening imminently. And so what would be the point? May I ask where you stand on that idea today?
Well, I tweeted again this morning. I mean, I
know you did.
How long does this take till they put these companies together? And then even Gwen Shotwell today didn't, poo-poo the idea when it was brought to her and actually said that it makes sense. So, we know this is going to happen at some point. And I think a lot of that has to do with what valuations SpaceX and Tesla really are to make this combination work for both sets of shareholders so that it doesn't create a lot of, lawsuits and other, issues. So I think it's definitely a foregone conclusion. Now, I do agree with you that props up Tesla stock because, people are like, well,
I didn't say that.
Well, okay. My feeling is it props up Tesla stock because people don't want to sell their Tesla if it's just going to get bought out by SpaceX anyways, And so I do think that helps Tesla, that the perception is that they will be acquired by SpaceX or merge.
So Ross, maybe in your view, it works for investors. Does it work from an actual operations perspective?
Oh, does it 100%.
Why?
In fact, well, I would argue that this is really unfair to Tesla. And it's one of the real gripes I've had over the last several years is the way they took, Tesla's chips and Tesla's engineers and built XAI, which was the brains of Tesla's, Optimus robot and full self-driving. And then Elon goes on TV and says, this is the entire value of the company is based off if we can succeed with full self-driving. But yet the brains of full self-driving isn't owned by Tesla. Like, that's super wrong. It just doesn't make any sense that I have a bunch of robots and cars that will not work without another company's technology. So Tesla, in my mind, is worthless if it doesn't merge because it doesn't own the IP to the brains to their own products. Like it just makes no sense.
All right. Speaking of the brains behind anything with Elon's universe is obviously Elon Musk. And we talk a lot about risk to the company. We talk about governance, but we also just talk about, how much what he does, his brain, his oddness, if you will, some might say, is what makes this company
eccentricity.
Tick. You're much better. On this and on the governance and stock structure, Nell Minow, Value Edge Advisors Vice Chairman, joined the closed team yesterday on Bloomberg Television. Let's all listen up to what Nell had to say.
All of those protections that you talked about, the ability to vote proxies, the ability to sell the stock, the ability to sue, all of those are there to reassure investors. Having independent directors on the board, all of those are there to reassure investors that their money is being taken care of in a principled way for their benefit, not for the benefit of the insiders. And all of those have been obliterated by this offering. Elon Musk has appointed himself CEO for life. Mm-hmm. He's the only one who can remove himself. Not even his board of directors can remove him. He has all the voting control. He has basically built a moat with alligators around himself, and that's not good for shareholders.
Nell Minow, Value Edge Advisors Vice Chairman on Bloomberg Television yesterday. Ross, my understanding that you were kind of laughing as you were listening to that.
Well, there's no companies that have ever been run like Tesla and SpaceX in the history of public companies. And so I find her outrage to be humorous because that's basically how it's worked for Tesla for the last 15 years. And, the board is not independent. They do whatever Elon says. The pay packages are approved because index funds just push yes to whatever management puts forward. So Elon's taken advantage of a system where 20% of his company is owned by robots that don't make any decisions. There's nothing worse than Vanguard for shareholder rights. So if she wants to complain, she should be complaining about Vanguard, not Tesla, and the fact that Elon takes advantage of the fact that, there's basically going to be nobody but, somebody like me who goes out on TV. But as far as trying to vote change into Tesla or SpaceX, never going to happen. So does he take care of shareholders? Yeah, they've made a lot of money. So that's taking care of shareholders. Any way you do the math, whether I vote proxies or not, what matters is whether I'm making money. And I've made over 100 times my money investing in Tesla. And so I just think, when you invest with Elon, you have no rights. You get on the bus. You don't like the bus, get off the bus. But if you want to be on that bus, he has rewarded people who has done that. And that's why people are giving him such a ridiculously high valuation, is because he has rewarded shareholders in the past and in a way that very few CEOs have. So, I get the outrage and all that, then don't buy the stock.
Ross, may I
but
just...
it was very clear in the S1,
Exactly. And I'm just relying on recounting what was in the S1, right? The restriction that's placed on Musk's comp, I'm just going to read it out because it's the only way the audience will come to have a sense of it. He has a 1 billion restricted Class B shares award that's contingent on market cap milestones. So if he achieves the market cap milestones, the shareholders get rewarded, as you say. But Musk's compensation package is tied to establishing a permanent human colony on Mars with at least 1 million inhabitants. I don't want to give a long-winded question, but you explained to the audience how you came to be a SpaceX investor and shareholder. That goal, what does it mean to you?
It means I might have a chance of not having to pay him the billion shares, So I kind of like that, I don't think we're going to have 1 million people living on Mars. So, that's good news if you're a SpaceX shareholder. And I can give you a lot of reasons that Elon might want to argue with me about, and I'm a more practical person, but I don't think you could talk 1 million people into going to Mars, unless Mars looks a lot like Hawaii, I don't think people want to go there. And Mars doesn't look like Hawaii. So I don't know. I don't know who's moving to Mars.
We're speaking with Ross Gerber.
Away, by the way, it's far away and there's no air.
Ross Gerber, President and CEO of Gerber Kawasaki Wealth and Investment Management. I did make that point earlier in our last hour about when people compared Mars to potentially being the next California. I pushed back a little bit there. Yeah,
I'm not moving from here for anything.
Yeah, you like
even
Santa
if they
Monica.
put socialists here, I'm not moving.
I still think he's going to put Optimus robots on and 1 million. Maybe
that's what I think. That's what I think. I think the robots are the ones doing the work in space and going to Mars.
So Ross, I want to put aside the question of sort of governance right now and these pay packages. And just get back to your view of SpaceX shares right now. You said Gerber Kawasaki does not buy on the first day of IPOs. What restrictions do you have or have you put out? It's sort of a rules-based buying when it comes to IPOs. And when would you start getting your clients in, even if they're not, asking for it?
No, they're asking for it.
Some of them, we've talked to a lot of wealth managers lately who have said some people want it badly. Some people want nothing to do with it. Like we've had three examples of that recently this week on air.
Yeah, and that's, we have so many clients. We have all those examples, right? What I think, because the way my firm works, we don't tell people no. Like if a client's like, I really want to do this, we don't say no. It's our job to advise our clients. So we advise them of the risks of it, and then we'll execute the transactions as unsolicited if they really want to do that. And would do that. Now I haven't done that today for anybody because I've talked them out of it, because they listen to my advice, which is IPOs are really difficult. Okay. And I've been trading for 32 years and I did .com and I trade billions of dollars. So just from my experience, it's really, really hard to make binary decisions like I'm putting $100,000 of my retirement money into SpaceX today and that's it. And I will never look at it for 10 years because that's just not what investors do. So if you were able to do that, I would say, okay, buy the IPO, pay up for it, but in 10 years, you'll be happy. But nobody actually does that. Right. What happens is they look at their account in 6 months and it's down 30%, and then they panic and they sell it right before it goes back up. And so investor psychology and behavior makes IPOs extremely difficult because of the volatility. So I don't know what the market's going to do over the next 12 months, let's say. And, and then you've got a very high priced IPO that has no PE ratio. And then maybe markets go down for some reason. Well, SpaceX is going to go down more than the market. And if the market stays the same or goes up, there's the potential that SpaceX stays the same or also goes up. But what I say is, how much upside can you get if you buy the stock today until this company actually produces earnings, which might be 3 to 5 years from now? So you've got plenty of time to get into SpaceX. So if you really, really want it, what I tell people is buy 20% of what you want to buy today. If it's $10,000 in SpaceX, you buy $2,000 today, and then you wait a month and you buy another $2,000, and you wait another month and you get in over the next 5 months. But what I would really say is wait till the lockups expire. Wait, there's a lot of liquidity and a lot of people want to get this liquidity. They've worked at SpaceX for a very long time, and they're not going to be quitting, and they're not this and that, but they want to buy a house in LA. And a house in LA costs $2 to $3 million just to get in. And these people are living in apartments. You see what I'm saying? So they're going to sell some of their stock to buy a house. And they're going to sell some of their stock so that they have some financial security, which is what we're advising them. But many of the employees at SpaceX are not selling their stock. And I just want to make it very clear. Many of them, these are the people who believe in their mission, and they're working extremely hard. And after meeting many of these people, I believe in their mission. And Elon gets too much credit. I just want to say this. It's not Elon Musk that's made SpaceX successful. It's the people there. Elon Musk is a visionary and he guides the company. But the truth of the matter is he does not really run SpaceX. The people running SpaceX are excellent.
Ross, 30 seconds left, though. We do think about succession. So does it become even more important on this day where we continue to see the Elon universe get bigger and bigger, that there is a succession plan in place? Is there one that you know of? Just quickly.
See, at SpaceX, yes. I think if Elon died tomorrow, SpaceX would be fine, actually. SpaceX has great management, and they've been very independent for a long time. And many of the employees, and I'm not going to, say where they were, divisions they were, they don't like Elon either. Okay. They having a mission like going to Mars or going to the moon or building a starship, it is what motivates people. A lot of what Elon does hurts SpaceX and hurts the company. So SpaceX has a much better management team than Tesla when it comes to succession, and I'm much more confident about its success, even if Elon isn't involved.